Hello and welcome back to the Opposites Abroad podcast, a podcast covering all things travel. Charlie Bosco here up in BC, joining me down in Denver, kind of fresh from one of his many visits to the scene of today's topic, Vegas. We've got TT, and TT, you are a regular, it would be fair to say, in Vegas.
I really like Vegas. It's one of the most ridiculous places I think you can think of, and I really like it. I've probably been maybe a couple dozen times.
I mean, it says everything that when you say, I really like Vegas, you immediately laugh. No one goes, I really like France. Ha ha ha. Like the...
Yeah, that's true. They don't. I think you have to embrace how ridiculous Vegas can be to really enjoy it.
Yeah, it does sound pretty ridiculous. So full disclaimer here, I've never been to Vegas. It feels like a huge gap in my travel resume. And I'd really like to go.
We've talked about going together before. It just hasn't worked out. But yeah, sometime we'll have to go, and then we can do a second episode on your impressions.
Yeah, that'd be super fun. And we actually have a direct flight, Kelowna, Las Vegas now. So I got no excuses. But yeah, Las Vegas is, as of the last really 30 years, is now a huge city. Hey, apparently the metropolitan area is 2.2 million. And I read, thank you Wikipedia, maybe true or not, but apparently the population of Las Vegas grew 82% in the 90s. And it really is expanding at an incredible rate. It was known for its gambling and obviously the famous Strip, but professional sports teams are moving there. The population is exploding. A lot of people are moving there who are into outdoor sports. It's becoming a real outdoor capital. It seems like one of the cities in the US that is just exploding right now.
Yeah, there's just so much to do, and I'm not an expert in, well, I'm not like a super expert in Vegas anyways, but I'm certainly not an expert in not touristy Vegas. I have been to a lot of places off the Strip, but as far as like the way out suburbs and stuff, it's just not that interesting. And Vegas does not have like an awesome architecture when it comes to like people's houses and apartment buildings. It's, to me, not like a very pretty city. What's cool about it are the casinos, the lights, the over-the-top aspects of Vegas. When you get outside of it, it's just, to me, kind of bland and boring.
So tell us why you like it so much. Why do you keep going back? What about it appeals to you?
You know, you and I have talked about like classic Americana and like Route 66 and roadside attractions and barbecue and all the stuff that's kind of considered, classic Americana. Vegas is like the epitome of that. It's where Elvis had his show. It's where mobsters from New York own casinos and broke people's knees and bashed their hands in when they caught him gambling. And it was a very, very rough place, and it's gone through different iterations of, in the 90s it was very family oriented, and they started building like little amusement parks, and all the casinos were themed. Like the Luxor looks like pyramid, and the Excalibur, which I think was the biggest hotel in the world when it was built, is like a giant castle. And then it went from there to where it is now, which is more what I would call like fancy Vegas, or it's a combination of almost like an LA style and a Miami style in a weird, like, temporary, glamorous way. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's just had so many iterations. There's so much history. You can see so much of it. You can feel so much of it. You go to old steakhouses that the Brat Pack ate at, and then you can go to new Michelin star, insane restaurants. There's so much food there. There's so much stuff to see, the people watching, the shopping. It's just, I just think it's a really cool place. And a big thing for me, why I go there instead of, some other places in the world is it's an hour and a half flight for me. It's an hour and a half flight from Denver. The flights aren't very expensive. There's 1 billion hotel rooms. You can always get hotels. You generally want to go like Sunday through Thursday if you go to Vegas those days. Saturday and Sunday, the hotels can be like 4 times as expensive because everyone's driving in from LA to party over the weekends. So I really don't recommend going over the weekend if you can help it. But it's just awesome.
Okay. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week. No, it's
yeah. And I'm a little, and you know me, I'm a little ADD. Like, I'm always doing stuff. I can't sit still. I have trouble relaxing. Vegas is this weird thing for me where it calms me down. It calms down my mind because there's so much stuff going on. So if I'm walking through the casinos and it's all the lights going off and it's all the noises from the gambling and there's people talking and there's music and I'm going to some great restaurant and the fashion is loud and different than it is in Denver. People are dressed more flamboyantly. It's really like calming to me. And I don't know like why the psychology of that is, but I find it that way versus going some other places and my mind might be just racing a mile a minute and I can't really calm down. It distracts my mind, I guess. So I really enjoy walking around. The people watching in Vegas is awesome. People will wear stuff that you'll never see anywhere else. I mean, you'll see women walking around with swimming tops, or we're basically wearing like lingerie with jeans, and it's not and heels, and it's just not a big deal. And in Denver, if you went out like that, everyone would be gawking at you and staring at you. But Vegas just has this kind of, they always call it either this where everything stays in Vegas, everything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, or it's one of those. There's a few other ones, but like a city that never sleeps, and you really kind of get the idea that there's always something kind of nefarious and strange behind the scenes, and you just don't know. It's just a fun place.
Yeah, but I mean, there probably is an awful lot of nefarious, strange things going on behind the scenes, because as you said, as you alluded to, it was essentially run by organised crime.
It was, yes.
Until it tidied up its act. But I suspect there's still things going on there that don't quite make it to
there's still
onto
crime.
The accounts.
Yeah, there's still a lot of crime and stuff if you get out of the touristy spots. I mean, it's a place to be careful. The casinos are fine, but you start walking around the Strip at night or going downtown. And back to the mob thing, there's a mob museum there. There's actually some cool stuff in Vegas that people don't know. The one is a mob museum. I would recommend anybody, whether you go to Vegas or not, to watch Casino.
It's such a great movie. That's my plane standard. If you get on the plane and you can't be bothered, you can't be bothered finding a new movie. I just think I know I'm going to enjoy it.
Yes, it's one of the most. It's pretty accurate. It's such a phenomenal story about when the mob was in Vegas and how they started kind of losing control and the company started coming in. It's incredibly violent. When it came out, it had the most F words of any movie that had ever been made at the time. So it's a very gritty movie. Sharon Stone puts on an amazing performance, and I think it's kind of a must-see. Another Vegas movie, I would say, if you're gonna go watch that's an absolute ridiculous movie, is Showgirls.
I've not seen it.
Oh, it's Paul Verhoeven directed it, who did RoboCop and Total Recall and Starship Troopers. I think he's a great director. When it came out, the critics hated it, and they didn't really realize that it's a satire of kind of how women get treated in society. They saw it differently at the time, but it's kind of got a cult following now because people are starting to realize it. But it's a hilarious, awesome movie that'll get you in the mood for it too. And you can still see, one of the nice things about Vegas is even though they've changed stuff and torn stuff down, you can see things in so many movies. Ocean's 11, James Bond was in. One of the first James Bond was in Circus Circus, and you can go still see a lot of this stuff. It's even though Vegas is continuously getting torn down and rebuilt. I was watching Showgirls not very lately, and they're like in a cafe in Caesar's Palace in like the Forum Shops, and it looks pretty much like it does now, and it's really cool. There's so much history there.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned one there. Ocean's 11 is a terrible Vegas film. I watched it again recently on a plane. I forgot how bad it is. I mean, it's really bad, but I guess it you'll recognize a lot of the movie if you go to Vegas, but the hard bit of that is actually sitting through the movie. I thought it was terrible.
I watched it not very long ago, and George Clooney's just good in everything.
He is good, but it's a bit too slick. It's so Casino's so gritty and real, and the dialogue seems real. In Ocean's 11, no one talks like that. The dialogue is not that polished, and I found it a bit of a hard watch.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually watched it not very long ago on a plane too.
It's the kind of thing you watch on a plane because you don't really need to think. I mean, I can't stand. I've watched the that Napoleon movie and the one about electing the new pope. But because it's kind of quiet, precise dialogue, you miss most of it on the plane anyway. So yeah, maybe Ocean's 11 is good plane fodder. But when people go to Vegas, what can they expect in terms of the people? Because I'm thinking about, say, a city we talked about recently is London. When you're in London, you can just see who's a local and who's a tourist the second you see them walking down the street towards you.
Because the tourists have nice teeth.
Exactly. I'm actually quite self-conscious of my teeth anytime I'm around you, because they're not bad, but by British standards. But you know, with your perfect American teeth, I'm always quite conscious of them. No, but I mean, are there many locals in Vegas? Are there many people that look like they know where they're going and they've got purpose, or is everyone just, especially we're talking about the Strip here? I know if you go to suburban Vegas, but when you're on the Strip, are people kind of wandering around aimlessly, or are there some true locals still?
There's still some true locals, but I would say there's kind of three, for tourist Vegas, there's three different kind of things. And I'm not going to get into like people going there because they want to go, you know, out and do exploration of the desert and stuff like that, because I don't know that there's a lot of people that are doing that. But there's really, you stay on the Strip, you stay downtown, or you stay in an off-strip casino if you're a tourist. Those are really your three options. The downtown is the original Vegas. That's where Vegas started. The casinos are smaller. They're older. Golden Nugget's probably considered the nicest of them. The ceilings are lower. There's still some good deals on food and stuff there, but it's definitely seedier. And for someone going to Vegas for the first time, I unless you're maybe 21 and you just want to party and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, I probably kind of avoid downtown. But I do think if you go to Vegas a few times, it's worth going and at least staying down there once just to experience it. Then there's off-strip, which is kind of like different random casinos that were built away from the Strip. I don't normally recommend those because unless you have if you're driving through, it's great. It's fine because it's easy to park and stuff. But if you're not, you just have to Uber everywhere to get anywhere, and it's a big pain in the ass. One off-strip one I liked is the Orleans. I think it's a nice kind of off-strip hotel that's not super expensive. When I had little kids, we'd go stay there sometimes, and it's not so gigantic that you can't find your way out. Because when you get to Vegas, in a little side thing, when you're at one of these casinos, there's no windows, there's no clocks. They've designed them very carefully so they're very confusing to get out of. And what they want you to do is go in one, and you don't know what time it is. You lose track of everything. You maybe start drinking some drinks, and you're like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just sit down at this machine and start throwing money in, or I'm going to sit down at this table and start throwing money in. They don't particularly want you to leave. And there's been even times when I've been there and I would have to like find like a security guard and be like, hey, where's the exit to this place? Like, how do I get to the Strip, or how do I get to this? Because they intentionally make it kind of confusing. But yeah, and you'll never ever find a clock in there. Because it never ends. It never stops. You'll go and you'll see people at 3 a.m, or 4 a.m, or 5 a.m, still acting like it's 8 o'clock at night. It's just a strange place. And then the last part is the Strip. And for someone going to Vegas for the first time, or you're not used to it, or you want to take like a girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse or something on a trip, you want to stay in the Strip. That's just where it is. There's South Strip, North Strip, and Central Strip. They have different casinos, some different things to do. Some areas are a little nicer than others, or newer. And I recommend when you go to Vegas and you stay at one of the casinos on the Strip, is you just kind of stay in that general area. Like, you don't go it's too much trouble if you're like staying at, let's say you're staying at Stratosphere on one end and you're like, let's go to Mandalay Bay for dinner. It's the distances, especially with traffic and how big the buildings are, it's way further than it looks. And you could even be walk out of a casino and you're like, oh, let's just walk over to that casino over there. And you don't realize how incredibly far it is, in like kind of like with a bunch of scuzzy people walking around. And then and then it's can be so hot that you can't believe it. Vegas can be 110 degrees in the summer, and when you walk out of these places, um, it can just feel like you're opening up the furnace when you're or opening up your oven when you're cooking like a frozen pizza. That's how it feels when you walk outside.
Okay, so I guess it also strikes me as a city that doesn't have a huge amount of must-see sites. If you go to Paris, you're going to have to find a way to go to the Eiffel Tower in your week. In Vegas, it sounds like you can just stay in your area, say North Strip, Central Strip, and you can just get the experience. That it doesn't seem like there are a lot of sites that you have to see while you're there. You just enjoy the overall experience.
I think that's completely right. I now some people disagree and they say, well, when you go, you have to go see the the Paris Eiffel Tower in Vegas. Like you've got to see that one, or you've got to go see Caesar's Palace and walk through that. I would kind of disagree. I think everywhere is so cool. Now, if you and I went for the first time, because I've been there so many times, there would be things that I'd be like, we're gonna go walk through this stuff, and I would say we're gonna go walk through Paris. We probably walk through New York, New York. Some of the themed casinos. I'd want to hit a tiki bar. I like the Golden Tiki, probably one of the classic steak houses. And I wouldn't be super worried about it because I know how to navigate it. I know what's really cool because I've been around a lot. But if you're an average person going to Vegas, just kind of stay in the area. You're also, it's a drinking culture in Vegas, and you're just more likely to get in trouble if you're, drinking a bunch and you're out, God knows where, doing God knows what. Like, just kind of stay where you are. It's not a place that you really. The other thing, I wouldn't rent a car if you go to Vegas. Now, if you're driving through, it's fine. I wouldn't. I think it makes no sense to fly into Vegas and rent a car. You land at the airport, you take an Uber to your casino, and then if there's somewhere else you want to go, you can Uber. But all the hotels now charge for parking, which they never used to do, and it's just a big pain in the ass. It's not worth it.
So you just mentioned the steak restaurant and the tiki bar you like. What's the food scene like? I mean, I'm guessing you can get every food under the sun somewhere in Vegas, but what's the food experience? Because we've talked on the podcast a lot about how important food is to an experience. What's the Vegas food experience that you need to have?
I think Vegas has amazing food. Absolutely amazing food. Now, what it does not have anymore is cheap food. It used to be known as a place you could go for really cheap, and they'd hand out show tickets on the street to get you in their casinos. When I went to Vegas the first time in college, which would have been about 96, right when I turned 21, and it was that way. Like, the casinos were older. It wasn't incredibly touristy. You'd walk down the strip and people would come out and they'd hand you show tickets and say, here's a free show tickets. We really want you to come in our casino and you could watch the show for free. There's 99 shrimp cocktail, prime rib dinners for $6 and all kinds of great deals, because back then the casinos thought they were kind of battling with each other for customers. Like, the people want deals, and the cheaper we can get this, the better we can get people in here to start gambling. So parking was free, all that stuff. And then what's happened over the years is Vegas has decided, you know what, we're just going to have people make this a destination place that's so nice and fancy and fun that people are going to spend money and they don't really care. And we're going to have expensive cocktails and expensive food, and it's going to be a lot nicer. And it's just completely changed. So the days of going to Vegas on a budget it's tough. I mean, you can still find some of those deals, but it's pretty tough. You go to a steakhouse in Vegas, which is, I would say, kind of the main historical Vegas style of restaurants would be the steakhouses, and you're going to drop a lot of money. Like, there's no way to do it cheap. Now, when I go to steakhouse in Vegas, I generally get a martini. I get a wedge salad. I get shrimp cocktail, because shrimp cocktail is a very Vegas-y thing. And then I get a ribeye, and then maybe a dessert. Probably not, because I'm pretty full. But that's kind of my go-to there. But there's unbelievable seafood, like Joe's and Caesar's Palace flies their crab claws in from Miami every day, and the Asian food, because they really cater towards a lot of Asian customers because of the money. Is everywhere. There's a Chinatown in Vegas that's really cool. That's where Golden Tiki, which is a tiki bar I really like, is at. Golden Steer is another really famous steakhouse. It's an old one that's hard to get. That the Brat Pack, or sorry, the Brat Pack. The Brat Pack is the later one. The Rat Pack, the Brat Pack is like from the '80s, from St. Elmo's Fire and Outsiders and stuff. But the Rat Pack, they'd go eat there. And going to Vegas, going to one of the old steakhouses where it's dark wood, the lighting's low, there's red leather seats, and they come and they make the Caesar salad on a cart in front of you, and you have a cocktail. And even though it's expensive, it's just such an awesome experience. And there's Elvis or Frank Sinatra playing in the background, and it's just so cool. Where I'm not an expert at is a lot of people go to Vegas and they go to like EDM, or they go to big dance parties and clubs and stuff, and that's just not me. I'm more classic, I would say, when it comes to my Vegas taste.
Yeah, I mean, is the seedy side of Vegas quite visible, or do you have to go and look for it? Because I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people working in the oldest industry in the world in Vegas still.
There are, but people forget prostitution's illegal in Vegas. It's
so it's not only, Amsterdam.
No, it's only legal in a couple parts of Nevada, pretty far from Vegas. So yeah, I can't imagine there's not a ton of prostitution in Vegas. I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff that happens in strip clubs and massage parlors and people calling people to their hotel, and I'm sure there's all kinds of that stuff. But you don't really see I'm not usually out like 2 a.m. wandering the strip. But I don't see people like looking like they're prostitutes walking around. I don't see people looking like prostitutes at like the hotel bar trying to pick guys up. Like, I know that stuff happens, and I'm sure there's a big drug scene and all that kind of stuff because it's a vacation party place. But I think if you're not looking for it and you're at one of the nice casinos, you're never going to see that stuff. And the nice casinos are nice, like they are incredibly fancy. Always trying to one up each other with restaurants or just decadence. I mean, it can be really nice. Now you go to downtown Vegas and you wander around, you're probably going to see more of that stuff.
Okay, and I know you love your shopping.
I do.
It sounds like Vegas is pretty good for that.
Vegas is awesome at shopping. There's boutiques in a lot of the casinos. I'd say the main shopping is Caesar's Palace. The Forum shops at Caesar's Palace. The Wynn has great shopping, and then Crystal's, which is part of, they call it City Center, but it's on the Strip, and it's not like really a city center. But that's where there's some other big hotels there, and Crystal's a big shopping place, and it's like really cool how it's designed. Those are the 3 main places for boutiques. There's also a couple outlet stores. There's North and South outlet stores. The North stores are tremendously better, and have some very, very high-end outlet stores, like they have Versace and Dolce & Gabbana and some things like that. So if you're going to do a lot of shopping in Vegas, I think it is worth maybe taking an afternoon and Ubering to the North outlet stores to get some good deals on stuff that probably just came, half a mile down the road from the boutique when the season changed, or they got a new style or something, and they just move everything to the outlet store, and you can save a fortune.
Okay, it's good to know. I mean, how's the thrift store scene? That's more my shopping.
I have actually done some of that stuff and gone to some of the thrift stores and secondhand stores. I got a really cool one time Adamant tour shirt from 1985. That's original from 1985 at a secondhand store in Vegas. That is probably worth a fortune now. It was a while ago when I got it. But there's some cool stuff, and there's some really cool like local bars that are close to downtown, and some cool local stores and things like that. I'm definitely not an expert in that. I think for a lot of that, you really need a local to show you around, and probably a local that grew up there or has lived there a long time, not a recent transplant that's probably more likely to go to the Strip for things. But it's kind of like anything. Like in Denver, we've got the 6th Street Mall, and we've got Union Station downtown Denver. Uh, Locals don't go there. Like the locals never go there. The only time I ever go down there is if maybe someone's out of town or something and they want to meet down there. I'm never like, let's go to Union Station for dinner. Like it's just like never happens. Vegas is a little bit that way, but you do see locals in the casinos going to stuff for certain things. But I'd say the vast majority of people are probably tourists.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's Vegas wasn't built on the winners, and they need a steady churn of people coming through. So
Yeah, and I should say that too. I don't gamble.
at all.
Like not at all. I just have no interest in it. I think it's boring. I just have no interest in it at all. Some people love it and they can sit there and play poker or they can play blackjack or they can play slots and good for them. I mean, them doing that makes it so that I can go experience all the stuff because of their money's paying for a lot of it. But it's just not me. And if you talk to people and they say every time I go to Vegas I win a bunch of money and stuff, whatever. Like that whole place is designed to take your money.
Yeah, those casinos aren't getting built from people winning. That's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Come on. Okay, well, on that note of things that you're not into, let's say if you had free reign, life commitments be damned, you could move to Vegas. What would stop you doing that? Because it sounds like you love it so much, or would it just exhaust you?
I don't know that it exhausts me. I don't know that I would want to live in Vegas full time, and part of that is, like I said, anyone from Vegas is probably not going to. They might like this or might not. I think the houses are ugly and the neighborhoods are pretty ugly, and I'm sure there's some beautiful areas. But when you drive around, it's like so many ugly strip malls that are brown. You know, these just ugly houses. It's just not. I just wouldn't do it. But what I would like to do is I'd love to have like a vacation condo, in like by the strip in a nice place, even if it was like a studio condo that you could rent out when you're not using it, and then you could go have like a home base there. I think that would be really cool. I don't know that it financially makes a lot of sense because everything's so expensive there. But I could live in Vegas for, during January, February, and because I could be away from Denver when the weather's nicer there. The other thing too is it's so unbelievably hot in the summer in Vegas.
Too hot.
Oh my God! You go in August, it is so unbelievably hot that you really can't do anything. Even going to the pool is kind of miserable. I like Vegas in probably other seasons better, but sometimes there's some really good deals in the summer there because it at least historically hasn't been quite as touristy because it is so hot. But you go in August, it's awful, and it's like I said, it's like opening the oven when you make pizza, and you're just standing there feeling it when you walk outside.
Yeah, I get that. All right, well, I'm going to put you on the spot to finish. We'll just go through kind of each topic and just give me a couple of recommendations. We'll start with hotels.
Well, I'm a Hilton guy, so I stay a lot at Resorts World, which is one of the newer casinos there. And Resorts World is the rooms are pretty much like a newer Hilton. It's not super expensive. It's got a cool thing inside where it's got a street market that is meant to look like a outdoor street market in Singapore. And they've got all these cool little, almost like a food court, but it's long. It's not like a court, like it's not round like in a mall. And you can walk down it, and there's all kinds of these Asian themed little restaurants that are owned by families that probably own something in Hong Kong, and then they have like their one branch is at that hotel in Vegas. It's actually really cool. So I like that one. I think that's a great location too, because you can walk across to the Wynn. You could do kind of a longer walk, get to Caesar's Palace, walk to Fontainebleau. I think that's great. I think for the inside of the actual casino itself, I think Paris is so cool. It looks like the streets of Paris. It's awesome. The rooms are really small though, so I don't know that I would stay there. I really don't think you can go wrong with most of them. If it's something really strange, like it's like I would never go to Vegas and stay at like the like the Hampton Inn or something a couple blocks off the strip that just like what's the point? I don't really understand that. The Waldorf is really nice. It's right by City Center, and um, that's a beautiful one because there's some of them don't have casinos, and some people really like that. So you go to like Bellagio, which people love, or Venetian, which is another great one to stay. People love. It's a casino and it's gigantic, and you have to walk your luggage through the casino trying to find the front desk, and it's a big pain in the ass. Or you can stay someplace like the Waldorf or um, another other high end hotels that don't have that, and you just go in a lobby and you go check in like a normal hotel, and you go up to your room, and you don't have to navigate this gigantic mess, and that's a benefit too. Downtown Golden Nugget I think is the best one. Off strip, I like the Orleans because it's just not. I think it's like a great family one. I would say the Rio has big rooms, but it's really not doing that great, and it's kind of run down. I don't know. I would say unless you're driving through, stay on the strip and stay in one of those.
Okay, restaurants. We've already mentioned a couple, but just to summarize.
Restaurants, God, there's so many, and I'm by no means an expert because they change constantly, and there's so unbelievable many of them. Like I said, Golden Steer, if you can get reservations, is an awesome steakhouse. I would say try to do basically a really nice steakhouse, and every casino has a really nice steakhouse, and there's there's awesome. Gordon Ramsay has quite a few restaurants there. I think Gordon Ramsay Burger is a great place for lunch, or Gordon Ramsay Fish and Chips is a great restaurant for lunch. The If you go off strip into Chinatown, there's so much food. There's hot pot and Korean barbecue, and there's sushi and ramen and just everything you could possibly imagine. But unless you don't eat meat or something, I think you're really cutting yourself short if you never experience a classic Vegas steakhouse. I think that's a must for me.
And finally, just for Vegas kitsch, just to feel like you're getting the Vegas experience. Any casinos you recommend? Any particular sites where you just think if you go there, you've kind of felt what Vegas is like?
There's a lot. There's a Welcome to Vegas sign that's on the south side of the strip. I'm not someone who wants to wait in line and take a picture, but you can certainly go. Welcome to Las Vegas, a super famous sign, is right there. Downtown, there's a what's it called it's called the Neon Museum, and it's where they have a lot of the old neon signs, and you can go walk around and see all that stuff. There's Pawn Stars with the show, where you can go see the pawn shop where they film the show, which is very little, and it's kind of in a bad neighborhood, but some people really like that. The thing with Vegas is they don't really, it's a weird place because in one hand they really care about the history and embrace history. On the other hand, they don't, and they will knock everything down and burn everything down to build something new. So there are really a lot of those old casinos are gone. All the old strip ones. I think the oldest casino on the strip is the Flamingo, and it doesn't really represent what the old ones are. I would say if you're walking around the strip or downtown, you go into a casino and the ceilings are really low, you can kind of age it from that. Like nobody would build a casino anymore with like 10-foot ceilings, but some of those are that way. I would say if you want like campy old Vegas, Circus is neat to walk through. A lot of people really don't like it because it's just not that nice compared to the new ones. But I think it's a neat, and and James Bond was there gambling, and it was one of the first kind of themed hotels with circus acts, and if you have kids, they can play games and win stuffed animals and stuff. I think that's kind of quintessential Vegas. I think you could just kind of go on forever. Now, I would say there's some stuff that's unexpected especially if you have kids. There's a really good natural history museum outside of Vegas, because you think it's a big city, so big cities need stuff that aren't touristy, and families want to they want to take their kids to natural history museums. They want to go do some kind of educational things. You can go to Hoover Dam. There's other things there. There's some things Vegas doesn't have, like there's not a zoo. There's not a great art museum. I would go to Bellagio and see like I don't know what they call it, the Gardens of Bellagio or whatever, but it's a big atrium and they have different themes and stuff. It's free and it's beautiful. It's always beautiful, and so you can see the fountains go off. Now a lot of the things are gone that were built in the 90s to attract families. There used to be the pirate show for free in front of Treasure Island where the pirate ships would fight. It was so cool. That's gone. The pirate ships are still sitting there, but it's you can't really see them anymore because you can just kind of imagine it. There used to be a show in front of Excalibur. That's gone. There used to be an amusement park at the back of MGM. That's gone. And if there's something in Vegas that catches your eye or looks cool, just know it's eventually going to be gone. And you should probably go try to see it when you're there or experience it. But every single time I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago, and it hasn't been that long since I was in Vegas, maybe I can't remember, a few months or something like that. And when I went, it was like, oh, that boutique of watch store is gone. Oh, that restaurant's different. Oh, they're building something here. Oh, it's just constantly in flux, constantly tearing stuff down, constantly building things, constant newness. And I think that's actually fun because most places you go, they might change a little bit, but Vegas is constantly different.
That's pretty cool. We do need to get there. You're getting me fired up.
you need to check it out. But you have to go with an open mind of like, this place is going to be ridiculous. I'm going to embrace that it's ridiculous and huge, and it's going to be okay. And I think the people that wouldn't like Vegas don't go with that mindset, and then they're like, wow, it's kind of seedy, or God, it's just so hard to get around because it's so massive, or there's really I can't find this or that or whatever it is, and you just have to go in and be like, you know what, I'm going to have a ridiculous trip and a ridiculous time, and it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, well, that's the wonder of travel, isn't it? You go to each destination for a different thing. I wouldn't turn up expecting it to rival the cultural sites of Paris.
Correct.
So, no, we'll have to go. The Raiders are in the Broncos division, aren't they, in the football?
Yes, and
we should go to the Raiders Broncos.
We should. We should do that, and I would totally do that. That's so weird, but Vegas, like you said, they've done such a great job. I mean, the Raiders are right on the Strip. They tore down the Tropicana, which is a cool hotel, and they're moving the Oakland A's there.
So Oakland's lost its two big sports teams to Vegas.
And then there's the Golden Knights, which is that was their first professional team, the hockey team, and it's amazing how much it's changed, and how much all that stuff is. But yeah, I would love to go to a Bronco game at Raider Stadium.
That'd be super cool. So maybe that could be our excuse to go.
Yeah,
what it's like. You always need an excuse.
Yes.
So no, it'd be super fun, and I've now cleared the hurdle of getting into the States post-Trump. I was in Washington State at the weekend, and I can still enter the country, so we're all good. Unless Trump listens to this podcast, because it seems like he gets a pretty hard time on it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. I don't know. I don't think he's not very vindictive, is he?
No, he's pretty forgiving of people that have different opinions.
Just roll off his back.
Yeah, it's water off a duck's back criticism of Trump. He won't mind at all, but
Yeah, just ask Bruce Springsteen.
By the way, I got to tell you that I got to share this with the world because it puffed my ego up so much, especially when you mentioned about when you turned 21. I got asked for ID buying a beer.
No way.
What do you mean, no way? I was so happy. No, I just took my hat off, took my baseball hat off, and just saw I'd lost my hair, and she kind of went, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But still, there was no way I could let a podcast go without mentioning that I got asked for ID.
Yeah, that's in a long time for me too. So, yeah.
I enjoyed it. I was with a friend of mine who's a lot younger, and she asked him for ID, and then it was and I think she just did it out of sympathy for me. I'm still claiming it. It's still magnificent. I enjoyed it. But no, we should do that. Be great. And we'll speak again next week. lots of interesting topics coming up, and we've had some good guests on. We've got a few more coming up. So, yeah, exciting times here at the Opposites Abroad headquarters. We've got several outlying offices, but it's exciting times.
Yes, I'm going next week, and I'm going to Rochester, New York for a couple days. So we'll see kind of how that is. Kind of past its prime, I hear. So we'll see.
Oh, it'll be interesting. We'll do a show on it.
Okay.
Yeah.